Some books, they just describe the natural world. But then there are the ones that completely flip the script on how we see our place in it. And today, we're diving into one of the most important of them all, a Sand County Almanac. And look, to really get how important this book is, all you gotta do is look at the company it keeps. Whenever you hear people talk about the absolute pillars of environmental writing, you're gonna hear three names, right? The Rose Walden, Rachel Carson, Silent Spring, and yeah, you guessed it, a Sand County Almanac. This thing is a true heavyweight. So here it is, the first edition cover all the way from 1949. The author was a guy named Aldo Leopold, an American ecologist, forester, and a real pioneer in environmental thinking. And the book itself? It's basically a collection of his essays, born from his time living and observing the land right there in Sauk County, Wisconsin. So what's the big deal? What makes this book so special? Well, it's not just one thing, that's for sure. It's this amazing mix of natural history, these beautiful descriptions that just paint a picture in your mind, and then, bam, some really deep philosophy about how we fit into the whole planetary picture. And clearly, its message has hit home for a lot of people. We're talking over 2 million copies printed. But here's the crazy part. It wasn't some overnight success. Nope. When it first came out, it barely made a ripple. Its influence was a slow burn. But man, did it become powerful over time. All right, let's just run through the key facts here. It came out in 1949, and tragically, that was just 1 year after Leopold himself had died. It was actually his son, Luna, who put the final pieces together and edited it for publication. And from those super quiet beginnings, it's grown into this absolute landmark of the conservation movement. I mean, it's been translated into at least 14 languages. So how does he do it? How does the book build up this big idea? Well, the genius is really in how it's structured. See, Leopold isn't just preaching at you from a soapbox. Not at all. He's taking you on a journey, and he's carefully building his case, one step at a time. And that journey is broken down into 3 main parts. First up, you've got the Almanac. This is where he gets really personal, just observing his Wisconsin farm month by month, season by season. Then, the view zooms out a bit with the sketches. These are stories from his travels all over the US, Canada, and Mexico. And finally, you get to the upshot. This is where it all comes together. He lays out the big, powerful philosophy that he's been leading you to the entire time. Okay, so nestled inside that middle section, the sketches, is probably the most famous essay he ever wrote. It's called Thinking Like a Mountain, and it's just the perfect example of how one single moment, one experience, can completely change how you see everything. You have to remember, back then, the thinking was pretty simple, even for conservationists like Leopold. It was basically, wolves are bad. Get rid of the wolves and you'll get more deer, more game. It just seemed like basic common sense, right? But then, this one moment changed everything. Leopold and his hunting party shot a she-wolf, and he gets to her just in time to watch her die. He famously wrote about seeing a fierce green fire dying in her eyes, and in that split second, he had this incredible realization. He understood something that the mountain had always known. He realized her death wasn't just the end of one wolf, it was going to set off a chain reaction. Now, he didn't have the fancy scientific term for it back then, but what he was seeing was the start of what we now call a trophic cascade. It's this powerful idea that when you pull out one piece of an ecosystem, especially a top predator, you don't just leave a hole. The whole system starts to wobble, even collapse. It's a core concept in ecology today. I mean, it's the whole reason behind huge projects like reintroducing wolves to Yellowstone. So moments like that one with the wolf, they all started adding up. And they led Leopold to the book's grand finale, its most powerful, most revolutionary idea, something he called the land ethic. Okay, so what in the world is the land ethic? It sounds kind of academic, but it's not just a list of do's and don'ts. It's a completely different way of looking at the world. Basically, at its heart, the land ethic is about one big idea. We need to expand our definition of community. Our moral code, our ethics, they shouldn't just apply to other people. They need to include the land itself, the soils, the waters, the plants, the animals. He's saying we should stop seeing land as something we own and start seeing it as a community we belong to. And with that comes a responsibility to take care of it. And Leopold just boils it all down into this one incredible sentence. This is probably the most famous line in the entire book, and you can see why. It's like a moral compass for everything we do. He says, a thing is right when it tends to preserve the integrity, stability, and beauty of the biotic community. It is wrong when it tends otherwise. Think about that. Is what I'm doing helping the whole system or hurting it? If it's hurting it, it's wrong. So simple, but absolutely revolutionary. He had another way of putting it too. He said conservation isn't just a bunch of stuff we do. It's a state of harmony between men and land. See the difference? It's not about managing resources, it's about building a relationship. So you have to wonder, how did this deep philosophical idea, which came out so quietly way back in 1949, end up becoming this huge global influence? Well, it's a pretty remarkable story. Let's trace it. Like I said, this book was the definition of a slow burn. When it was first published, crickets. Nobody really noticed. But then, fast forward to the 1970s, the environmental movement is really taking off, and suddenly, a paperback version hits the shelves and becomes the surprise bestseller. It was like the world was finally ready for it. By 1990, its legendary status was locked in, and by 2009, the little shack and farm where it all started was officially a National Historic Landmark. And you can really see just how important it became. Check this out. In 1990, the American Nature Studies Society polled its members, asking them to name the most significant environmental books of the entire century. And the results were just crystal clear. 2 books were way out in front, in a league of their own, Silent Spring and a Sand County Almanac. So when you look back, its impact was really twofold. On one hand, yeah, it totally inspired activists and changed how people felt about nature, but it also did something else just as important. It got regular people interested in ecology as a real science they could understand. It shaped both the heart and the mind of the environmental movement. And that really brings us right up to today, doesn't it? Leopold's core idea that we have a moral duty to the whole web of life, it feels more urgent now than ever before. So the book kind of leaves us with this massive, lingering question. How do we actually apply this land ethic? How do we live it out in a world full of challenges that Leopold himself could have hardly even imagined?